Hey everyone! Welcome to this week's Fridays with a Ranger. I'm Ranger Shannon with Lewis and Clark National Historic Trail, and thanks for joining me. Usually, you'd find me at the Visitor Center in Omaha, Nebraska for today's video, but in order to stay safe and healthy, I'm sitting here at my kitchen table. Now, I cleared everything off my table because for today's activity, I'm going to explain how to make a fun craft and you need a clean, flat surface to do it. Today, we're going to be making plant presses. When we're done with this activity, we're going to get beautifully dried out flowers and leaves that you can use for all kinds of fun crafts. During the Lewis and Clark expedition from 1803 to 1806, Captain Meriwether Lewis used the plant press to preserve or keep many of the new types of plants that he discovered along the journey so he could send them back to President Thomas Jefferson. To prepare for this task, Lewis studied botany, which is the study of plants for science. Shown on the screen is a black and white sketched image of Meriwether Lewis's hands and wrists as he writes notes on a piece of paper about a shrub specimen, or sample, at Fort Clatsop. In one hand, he is holding a quill pen and in the other, a shrub. On the expedition, Lewis and his crew found 174 species of plants that were new to science. Shown on the screen is a black and white sketched image of the leaves and fruits of the Pacific blackberry bush. However, most of these plants weren't necessarily new. They were already well known and had traditional uses for the American Indians. Shown on the screen is a black and white sketched image of 5 American Indians building a canoe out of bark from birch trees in a wooded area. You can still see many of the plants that they found today at the Lewis and Clark Digital Herbarium. Check out the link in the description box for this video. Shown on the screen is a black and white sketched image of the leaves and cones of the red alder tree. Have you ever discovered something new? What was it? And what did you do to keep it safe so you could share it with others? Let us know in the comment section down below. Before we get started, I'm going to explain a few things we need to make our plant press. First, you need a plant. You could use a leaf, a flower, or both. The plant should be freshly picked. Now, I have a couple examples of plants that I will use. First, I have a houseplant from inside my home. To take the leaves off to use for your press, use your thumb and index finger to gently pinch off the leaf without damaging the plant. Make sure you ask an adult in your home for permission before using any houseplants and ask for help to pinch off the leaves that you want to use for your press. Next, I have some daffodils that I picked from my front yard. Here's some flowers that I already pinched off. Again, to remove the flower from the stem, use your thumb and index finger to gently pinch off the flower without damaging the plant. Only go outside if it's safe for you to do so, and remember to stay 6 feet away from others, avoid touching your face, and wash your hands for 20 seconds with soap and water when you go back inside. Next, you need some heavy books. I have 4 books that I picked out from my library. They're each about 1 inch thick. The books you use need to be big enough to cover all the plants that you are pressing and heavy enough to push the plants down flat. Make sure you have an adult help you to lift heavy objects so you don't hurt yourself. Now you need some cardboard. I have 3 pieces here, but I'm actually going to use 4. The cardboard needs to cover the plants that you're pressing. Have an adult help cut some for you to use. Finally, you need some newspaper. I have 3 sheets of newspaper that I got from my mail. Each sheet is an entire page folded in half. If you don't have any newspaper, you can use another type of paper, such as construction paper or sketchbook paper. It just needs to be able to absorb the water from the plant. Now, you may not need as many layers of cardboard, newspaper, or as many books as I'm using. It really just depends how many plants you're using and how wet your plants are. So I'm just using extra layers more for added security, just to make sure that all the water gets absorbed out of my plants. Okay, so now that we have all of our supplies ready, let's get to work on putting together our plant press. So the way we're going to put this together is kind of like a layer cake. we're going to have even layers of alternating materials with our plants in the middle and our books on the top and bottom. So to start with the bottom layer, we're going to use 2 of our books. Next, I'm going to do a piece of cardboard. Next, piece of newspaper. Next, another piece of cardboard. Next, another piece of newspaper, and this is where our plants are going to go. So I'm going to open this up, and I'm just going to lay my plants down like this. You can lay them however you want. You could put some to the side, or you could put some straight up and down. They're each going to dry differently, so it's kind of fun to experiment on what you want to do. And then I'm going to put my leaves. And you just want to make sure that these are on the surface of the cardboard and under the books. So I'm just going to close this, and then I'm going to press down lightly so they don't move. Now I'm going to put another piece of cardboard, my last piece of newspaper, my last piece of cardboard, and my final 2 books on top. And there's our completed plant press. Now, ours are all going to look different because I'm sure you're all using different size books and different pieces of paper and different amounts of plants, different types of plants. But that's what kind of makes it fun, is they're all going to be different. So now what we're going to do with our plant press is I'm just going to take mine and I'm going to put it in a safe space, and we're going to let these sit for 7 days or 1 week, okay? Just to make sure that there's enough time for all the water to dry out of the plants. So find a safe space to put yours, and then we are going to check back in a week and see what they look like. Hi everyone. So it's been 7 days or 1 week, and now I'm going to show you how to take this apart carefully so you don't damage your plants. To take out our plants, remove the books and other layers from the newspaper with the plants inside. Then gently open up the sheet of newspaper. The plants may have gotten stuck to the paper when the water got absorbed, so gently peel them off so you don't rip them. A helpful way to remove your plants is to take the piece of newspaper, gently bend it away from the dried plant, and peel the plant off like you're peeling a sticker. Have an adult help you if you're having trouble. Okay, so here's my dried out plants from my plant press. My flowers turned out really well. They're nice and dry and crispy, almost like a paper. So these will be really good to use for some crafts. My leaves, unfortunately, they didn't turn out as well. The plant I used was a little bit waxy, so they're still kind of rubbery, and it seems like the moisture didn't get absorbed all the way. I think it's probably just because I didn't use the right kind of leaves. You usually want to use something that's going to dry out more crispy. However, it's all about experimenting. So we tried, and now I know not to use a leaf like this. So remember, if your plants don't turn out right the first time, you can just try again with different plants and then see what works for you. So you can use these plants for all kinds of fun crafts and activities. I could take these and I could put them on a card for someone. I could put them in a picture frame and hang them up for decoration. I could just lay them on a table for decoration. You could do a painting with them. You could do collaging. Another fun activity you could do is you can even make sort of a plant journal and dry out different types of plants and put them in your journal and then write about them. So you could write where you found them and what kind of observations you've made about them, just like Captain Meriwether Lewis. Thank you so much for joining me for this week's episode. I had so much fun making this craft with all of you. Again, I'm Ranger Shannon with Lewis and Clark National Historic Trail, and be sure to tune in next week for another episode of Fridays with a Ranger. Bye everyone, stay safe.